Today I'm hoping that all of you that have been sending me messages about becoming a pro wrestler are listening, because I have a very special guest today to the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Today we have Marek Brave, who's one of the head trainers at the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy in Moline, Illinois. How you doing, Mr. Brave?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. I really wanted the listeners to understand your background because you've had a ton of experience. I often direct my listeners to search out particular YouTube videos to see things they may have missed or matches from before their time. But for this episode, I wanted them to look up, you have a match that just blew my mind. If they go to YouTube, look up Marek Brave versus Tyler Black. Because for those of you who are unfamiliar, Mr. Brave here is a co-founder of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy with Tyler Black, who some of you may know is Seth Rollins, who is a current World Wrestling Entertainment superstar. And today, he's main eventing pay-per-views and stuff, but before that, he forged these great relationships with people like Mr. Brave here. So, do you have any special memories of your time in the ring with him, with Tyler?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we run the school together, so we're still in the ring together quite often. Obviously, we're not having matches against each other anymore. Now we're just instructing the new generation of wrestlers. But, every time we got in the ring together, it was a pretty special moment. We had a lot of chemistry between the two of us. So I guess if I were to pick out anything or one particular match or moment, it'd be our no-roped barbed wire match that we had in Chicago. I want to say it was 2007, late 2007. So wow. We're coming up, or maybe it might have been 2006. So it might be actually 10 years old at this point. But it was a no-roped barbed wire match. We were just a couple of young kids. We weren't deathmatch wrestlers or anything like that, so it was a pretty unique thing for people to see at that time, and I think we did really well. It kind of put us on the map.
That's awesome. I was going through a whole lot of the videos I saw on YouTube. I saw you got to wrestle Eric Young at one point. There was a whole lot of people who people know, and I don't think they realize how much is out there for you can check out and watch and get to know these people.
Yeah, no, I've been in the ring with plenty of guys that have gone on to really great success in this business. Cesaro is a good friend of mine. Jimmy Jacobs, who is now a writer for WWE, was a fantastic independent wrestler that I was in the ring with a ton of times. Jerry Lynn, who used to be in ECW, WCW, and WWE, had a bunch of great matches with Rob Van Dam back in the day. I wrestled him on numerous occasions as well, so there's a whole lot of wrestling history here in the Midwest that, like you said, I think if people took the time to dig into some of it, they'd come up with some pretty awesome results.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on your career a little bit. As I understand it, you were really building momentum and on the independent scene, and then you were hit with a pretty severe injury. It took a little while to get back to the ring. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened, what you went through?
Yeah, it was the summer of 2007. Tyler, or Seth, whatever you want to call him. Him and I were down in Florida doing a tryout match for Ring of Honor, and unfortunately, there was a move that got messed up, and I hurt my neck, and I had to get stretchered out of the ring, and they took me to the hospital. And luckily, I didn't actually break my neck, but I had some pretty severe repercussions from that that kind of derailed everything that was going on for me at that time. And it took me a couple of years to rehab that and kind of get back on the scene. And so now I focus more on the training aspect, and I still wrestle around here at some of the local promotions near home. But as far as making it to WWE, that never worked out for me. But I really enjoy what I do now with the school and everything. So
yeah, I've heard you had returned to the ring at one point, but I also heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, somebody said you had a bid at WrestleMania doing something with Triple H.
Not Triple H. That would have been cool. I got to watch Triple H practice his entrance before WrestleMania 31, which was neat. But I was a Russian soldier for Rusev.
Oh, okay.
31, so, yeah, which happened to be the WrestleMania where Seth won the title for the first time. So I got to be there live for that, and it was all coincidence. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I actually didn't get called to do extra work until the Tuesday before, and I had to be there by Friday for rehearsal for the Rusev entrance. So it was all kind of rushed and crazy, and but it was an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. It was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. So I wanted to get into the stuff about the school. I got to tell you, I really had no idea what to expect about wrestling school. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions about that whole process. I'm a teacher in the Philadelphia area. I have a lot of younger people who tell me all the time, like, they want to be a wrestler. That's a huge thing here around Philadelphia. And, but I don't know if they really know what goes into it. I know myself, I took a run up to the Allentown Wild Samoan School when I was in school, and they straightened my head out real quick about, you better stay in school, you better get your education and all this stuff, because you have no idea what this is when you get into it. Yeah. And I still don't really. I'm 40 now. I have no idea. But what do they do to get started on that path?
Well, everybody's journey is different. We've had students. First of all, we won't accept anyone who's under the age of 18. So obviously, stay in school up until that point. Get your high school diploma at the very least before you come to our school, because we're not going to accept you unless you're 18 and up, anyways. But everyone's path is different. We've had people, come in straight out of high school when they're 18 years old. We've had students come in who are 30 years old and up. We have a current Marine who is joining our class in May, and he's 30. I want to say he's 34 years old. So everybody's path is different. But once you step into the ring with us, once you step through the front door to our academy, everyone's treated the same. Whether you're 18 years old, 30 years old, whether you're a man, a woman, skinny, overweight, whatever it may be, you're treated exactly the same. Everything is expected of you the same as everyone else. So,
how long do they actually?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, how long do they have to train to become a wrestler? How long is the whole system?
Well, our school, our initial course is 12 weeks long. We train 3 nights a week for 4 hours a night, and then we require additional fitness days that are done with CrossFit coaches in the area. And then after the 12 weeks, we feel like you've attained a good amount of skills, a sufficient amount of skills to start wrestling on the independent circuit here in the Midwest, or wherever you're from. We've had students from Australia come in, Canada come in, Germany come in. So if you choose to go back home, we feel like we've given you the sufficient amount of skills to get started on that in your area. But then after you start wrestling matches, a lot of the training continues there. You figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. You keep the stuff that works, and you ditch the stuff that doesn't. So it's a never-ending process, really. I've been wrestling for almost 14 years, and I still learn something new each time I get in the ring.
So then once you finish wrestling school, is it really hard to get booked on some of the shows, like the independent shows?
No. If you're we like to use the term hungry. If you're a hungry young wrestler, you'll find your way. You contact promoters, you send out maybe headshots or photos that you've had taken. If you've had matches, you send video or YouTube links of those matches to promoters. It helps when you say that you're trained at the Black and the Brave, because people know you've been trained properly and trained by reputable people and not just some Joe Schmo who wants to take your money. So it's not difficult as long as you want to do it. If you're lazy and you think people are going to come knocking down your door just because you trained with us, then yeah, you're not going to work very often. Because I'm a promoter as well. I run an independent promotion here in Iowa. I'm not actively seeking people, unless you're a well-known, established guy. I'm not actively seeking to book you for my show. But if you contact me and you show me that you want it, I'll take a look at you, and more often than not, I'll get you a spot on at least one show and see what you got.
What kind of money did new wrestlers make? Because I think a lot of these kids think they're going to walk out and be rich, and I know that's not necessarily the case.
No, that's certainly not the case. A lot of times new wrestlers actually end up losing money when they take bookings and they get to wrestle on a show. If you profit money coming home, then that, within your first couple of years, then that was a good trip. Between spending money on gas and spending money on food, and depending how far away the booking is, you might need a hotel. Between spending money on all of that, more times than not, you'll end up losing money on your trip. So we definitely recommend carpooling with other students or other people on the show to try and save as much money as you can. But it is not a profitable business when you first start out.
How hard is it to get a tryout with like a company like WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor or something like that?
A lot of that's dependent on who you know. Obviously, you have to be good, and you have to offer something unique. Whether that be the guy with 6-pack abs and we call them muscle guys or body guys, or maybe you can cut a really good promo, or maybe you're 7 feet tall, or maybe you're an something, an ex cheerleader for a football team, or whatever it may be. If you offer something unique, it's going to be a lot easier for you. But like I said, a lot of it's based on who you know, if somebody can set something up for you. But I know plenty of guys who are fantastic wrestlers who've never, had an opportunity to even have a tryout with WWE. So it takes some time. I think the first time I did any extra work, and a lot of times when you do extra work, they'll give you a tryout match as well. I think I had been a wrestler for 10 years before I had my first opportunity with WWE. So it can take quite a long time.
Absolutely. What kind of cost is associated with going to like a school like the Black and Brave Academy?
Our school is $3,500. When we started it, with Seth Rollins as a trainer, we realized we could probably charge whatever we wanted. We could charge a lot more than most other schools, but I feel like if you look around and you do your research, you'll see that our school is right there, very comparable price to all the other schools out there. And just with everything else in this world, you get what you pay for. So if you want to shave a few bucks off of your training and go somewhere a little bit cheaper, we completely understand, but you also need to understand that you're probably not going to get the same quality of training that you would get if you came to our school. Again, we're the only school in professional wrestling history, past, present, who's had a current top-level WWE superstar as a head trainer who works with you in the ring during the week while he is on top of the wrestling world, which is kind of crazy. Shawn Michaels had a school, but he was retired, and Booker T had a school, and he was retired. Most recently, the Dudley Boys had a school, but you couldn't say they were at the top level of WWE talent. But Seth's a two-time world heavyweight champion, in main events all across the world, and then he comes home to Davenport, Iowa, and we take the 5-minute drive across the bridge to Moline, Illinois, and we teach kids how to wrestle in the middle of the week. So it's pretty nuts.
That's awesome. How many kids do you guys bring in each time you have a session?
Typically, we'll accept between 12 and 15 per class. No more than that. We don't want class sizes to be too large. We want to make sure that everybody can get a good amount of personal instruction while they're with us. But the demand is pretty high, so we haven't. We've been doing this we're on our 8th class right now, and we've never had a class not fill up well in advance. So typically between 12 and 15. It's a hard business, and it's a hard life adjustment to move yourself, halfway across the country or the world for some of our students. So within a few weeks, that number will usually go down a little bit. We've never graduated the amount of people that showed up on the first night. That hasn't happened yet, but we're still looking for that. It could happen someday.
That's awesome. So whenever I get lucky enough to have a guest like you, I always like to ask a couple specific questions about your experiences in the industry. So you were talking about all these people you've worked with. All the people you work with, is there anybody who's just this is my favorite opponent?
I don't know if I could pinpoint one. Obviously, Seth was awesome. We've been wrestling each other since we reached 17 years old. We had matches against each other for companies when I guess you could say we weren't technically trained yet. And we always had some pretty special matches that fans remembered. Other than that, Jimmy Jacobs or Jerry Lynn, both of those guys would probably be tied for second there. Just because they were awesome dudes for one, and they taught me so much. And every time I wrestled them, I learned something new and a different tool that I could put in my toolbox and use for the next time I went out there with somebody different. And those are still some of the things that I teach to the newer generation of wrestlers that come through. So those 3 guys right there, Seth, Jimmy Jacobs, and Jerry Lynn, those are my top 3.
That's awesome. Now, I always talk about, because I'm in around the Philadelphia area, so I've been around the ECW arena a lot, and they always talk about the energy in that place. Is there a particular setting or a venue that you've been to that you thought was just, because a lot of the people here don't know anything except for the ECW arena, is there a place that just has that same kind of frenetic energy, that pop, a really great arena that we might not have heard of?
Berwyn Eagles Club in Berwyn, Illinois, where AAW runs. Or they used to run more frequently. Now I think they only run there a handful, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But it used to be the monthly venue for AAW back in the day. And when Seth and I first started wrestling for AAW in I want to say 2005, or actually no, my first match there was December of 2004 because that was my first professional wrestling match, so that's pretty good. But that place, the company that had been running there just wasn't very good, and the wrestlers weren't the most exciting wrestlers to go and watch, so the crowd was kind of wishy-washy on the product. But when AEW took it over and Seth and I became kind of the focal point of the company, and we had this year-long feud, which did culminate in that no-rope barbed wire match, the crowd started to really get kind of crazy and, like you said, frenetic, and they were really awesome to work for because they were always loud and into everything that we were presenting to them, and they stayed that way throughout the years and years that AEW ran that building, and now they're still that way when they come back, infrequently. But now Bourbon Street, a different venue in Chicago, has kind of taken that over, and they're just as loud and wild and crazy for AEW wrestling as they used to be in the Eagles Club. So those are two of my favorite venues.
That's very cool. So going forward, what's your goal? Are you going to be looking to do more shows, or are you going to primarily focus on the training?
Well, right now I still wrestle. I'm still a champion in a few different promotions here. I am getting a little bit older, and I do have some reoccurring neck problems from my injury. I'm actually battling a bulging disc right now and trying to get nurse that back to health. I have to wrestle this upcoming weekend and the weekend after that and the weekend after that and so on and so forth. So I'm really trying to get that back to health so I can. But I think, if I were being honest with myself, I'm probably coming to the twilight of my career. And then, the focus will shift to, it already has primarily shifted to the training of the new students and the school and whatnot. That's what I do for a living. That's the only job I have to have, which is amazing. I'm very thankful for that. And then also, building my promotion, my independent promotion, Scott County Wrestling, SCW Wrestling here in Davenport, building that to be the biggest and best thing that it can be, and giving our graduates, our Black and Brave graduates, a place that they can call home and a place that they can wrestle in when they graduate. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now.
That's awesome. I really want to thank you so much for taking the time for us. I know our listeners, I got a lot of, especially high school kids that follow this, and they really want to follow those dreams of being a wrestler themselves one day. I'm hoping, they get that opportunity at some point. And hopefully we get a chance to see more YouTube videos of you wrestling, because I think that's awesome. It really is. But thank you so much again.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Marek Brave, everybody.